Resident Evil has been and still is one of the most successful video game franchises in history, and has dominated the survival horror genre for the better part of 25 years, with other great series like Evil Within, Dead Space, Silent Hill, and Alone in the Dark. Even starting other great franchises like Dino Crisis and Devil May Cry. From the days of pre-rendered environments and fixed camera angles, to over-the-shoulder action, and the return to its horror roots via the medium of first-person gameplay, Resident Evil has set the bar for survival horror and learned to adapt itself to an ever-changing fan base, and it will always be one of the greatest series to grace the medium of video games. But I have noticed some things that have come to my attention in the last 4 years of releases for the franchise, which may become a problem, particularly in Resident Evil 7 and the 2 and 3 remakes. Now, before we continue, please be aware that I am a huge fan of the series and have been since 1996, and this is not intended to be a rant, just an observation I've made and how I feel it could affect the series in the long run. Also, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to keep up to date with new Resident Evil content. Now, I mentioned that Resident Evil may have a problem, in this case 2, and I'm not going to beat around the bush with this one. It stems from their use of boss fights and puzzles. First off, I don't mean all of the boss fights. The fights with all 3 members of the Baker family, Jack, Marguerite and Lucas, William Birkin's first 4 forms, and Nemesis are all great challenges and iconic in their own rights. But there is a particular style of boss fight that Capcom and the devs appear to have relied on for the last 4 years, and it's what I like to dub the wall fight. You know which one I mean. The one where you just shoot at a semi-static target with practically no reason to dodge or aim too much. We had this in the original Resident Evil 2, but that was just a quick cinematic fight which was brought back into the remake, and can be partially excused due to using most of your ammo immediately before against the super tyrant Mr. X, or Birkin's 4th form. But we saw this same fight with Birkin's final form in Spirit in Resident Evil 7, with Evelyn's mould form on the wall, which to be honest is only a little challenging even on higher difficulties. Then we get to Nemesis in Resident Evil 3 Remake in his final form, which is just a torso sticking out of a large biomass attached to yet another wall. Okay, this one required more skill and near-perfect reflexes in the highest difficulties, but you can see a pattern emerging here with the last 3 games with mostly static bosses, which require little to no skill to beat. By definition, boss fights should be the big test to see if you have learned from your regular encounters with enemies, and put the knowledge and tactics you have learned to good use. With all 3 of these last boss fights, you could start the game with them, with the bare minimum weaponry needed, and still win. Nothing you have learned progressing through the games is of any use in these final fights, besides the dodge mechanic and pushing power cells in place on Resident Evil 3 Remake. But other Resident Evil games at least gave you a challenge, whether it be Jack Norman's T-Abyss Tyrant form, Alexia Ashford's varying forms in the Antarctic base, or Osmond Sadler's Spider Plaga form. All 3 of these had variety and made you think about how to beat them. Can you say the same with Evelyn, Birkin and Nemesis in their final fights? Other games have proved it's possible to build up to a challenging boss fight while still making things cinematic. The God of War series has done this well with the fights with Ares, Zeus, Poseidon and Balder. Child of Light prepared you for your final hard fight with Umbra up in the stormy skies of Lemuria. Shovel Knight gave us the stressful but visually appealing Enchantress fight, and Metal Gear Solid gave us the epic battle between Solid Snake and Liquid Snake. This is a habit that Capcom really needs to drop come Resident Evil Village and into their future installments. Using this style of boss fight as a one-off spectacle is fair enough, or part of an alternate scenario in the case of Resident Evil 2 and its remake. But to have it as the final boss 3 games in a row is starting to look slightly lazy. We can only hope that the game directors decide to bring the challenge back that many of us have not faced for a long time with Village. The other problem has been puzzles, this time something that Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resident Evil 3 Remake have both been guilty of dumbing down a fair bit. Yes, Resident Evil isn't primarily a puzzle game, it's more about the survival horror and the action themes the series jumped between for almost 25 years. but it feels like the most recent installments, especially the 2 remakes, have dumbed down their puzzles or cut them down a lot. 7 had its fair share of puzzles which would be a little bit perplexing, but not so much to put people off. The original Resident Evil 2 and 3 had some good puzzles and some really tricky ones to throw people off. But come the remakes, they have taken a huge step back. 2's puzzles could be a little bit too simple or tedious, but there were more of them than the original game, while 3 only had about 4 to 5 puzzles which were basic or gave you the same answer every time regardless of the difficulty. Gone are the difficult conundrums of the gear system in the fountain or the water sample puzzle. Now it feels like fans are having their intelligence insulted. We don't need it to be so difficult that we give up easily, but it should be a little bit more challenging. Considering that puzzles are only a distraction though, rather than the main feature of the game, I don't see this being fixed anytime soon. But I'm happy to be proved wrong with Village or the inevitable Revelations 3. These 2 problems are not major deal breakers, but they have the potential to push fans away if not nipped in the bud before they become really noticeable and make the series look lazy and repetitive and lethargic. But then again, the amount of times we have revisited Raccoon City, whether it'll be a spin-off or remakes, is nearing double digits. I think probably we can overlook this particular flaw. Thank you for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video. Do you agree with my observations on the latter entries in the series? Why not leave a comment below with your thoughts on the current state of Resident Evil? Don't forget to like and share this video on social media. Also, please do subscribe to the channel and ring the bell to stay notified of new Resident Evil content. Thank you everybody, and I will see you again soon.